Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm doing week 43 of my 2020 reads. This week I read quite a few very different things and really enjoyed all of them. First, I finished Fun Home by Alison Bechdel, who is the person who came up with the Bechdel test, which is the whole test for media of if there are two named female characters who are having a conversation with each other that is not about a man. I love this test, and it's something that really helps you kind of critically think about the media that you're consuming. This is her graphic memoir, and it's really about two things. It's about her family, and in particular her relationship with her father, who is a very complicated person, as well as kind of her own journey to coming out as queer. This graphic memoir is very much for adults. It's got a lot of nudity and things like that in it as well. And it really tackles a lot of very, very heavy issues. There is a lot of complexity to Bechdel's relationship with her father, and there's a lot of complexity as well just regarding the way that she deals with things. There's quite a lot of emotional and mental issues that go into this, and really it's just such a fascinating look at that complexity, and especially at the way that you can have love in a relationship while also having so many other difficult emotions. I really got a lot out of this collection of kind of her memoir of all of these different times throughout her life, and kind of analyzing the way that her relationship with her father built and the way that she grew up and how all of that affected her and her coming out. I thought that there was a lot to this. I did think that at times Alison Bechdel is clearly way more educated than I am and uses a lot of really, really big words that I did not know, as well as lots of literary allusions, just so many references to literary works that I do not know. So some of it went a little bit above my head, but I still thought it was a really good memoir, and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next, I finished FIYAH Literary Magazine, issue number 15, edited by DaVaun Saunders. I have been super excited to start reading through all of these FIYAH issues, and this is the first one that I read through, and I definitely enjoyed it. There were a bunch of really good stories, although there was also some poetry that didn't really work for me, but the stories were pretty good, most of them. So in particular, there were 2 stories that super stood out to me, and I just thoroughly enjoyed. The first was Red Cloth, White Giraffe by Yvette, Lisa, and Lovu, and this was so great. It has this kind of dark, vengeful spirit type of feel to it. So we follow a woman who has died, and her spirit is trying to move on, but her family has yet to perform some of the rituals that they need to do in order for that to happen. And there's so much in here that's just really a feminist bent, looking at kind of the patriarchy and the way that men treat women both in life and in death, and kind of empowering yourself. I just thoroughly enjoyed this story, as well as just all of the mythology that's related to it. I really liked it. Another story that I really loved in this collection was Your Name is Oblivia by Vincent Torrado. And this is such a great story. Not only did I love the atmosphere and feel, but I just loved kind of the ideas that it was exploring. So we follow Oblivia, who is a bartender, and this kind of dive bar that serves up drinks that actually give people memories, so they can live that memory. However, it also charges memories from them. And so much about this story is kind of revolving around the idea of memories and grief and forgetting, and just sort of what memories mean to us. And I just loved the atmosphere, I loved the world building, and I loved the main character and some of the kind of fun bits to it as well. It was super good. Overall, I gave this issue of FIYAH Literary Magazine 4 out of 5 stars. I quite enjoyed a number of the stories in this, although not all, and the poetry collection didn't really work for me as well. Next, I finished The World of Lore, Monstrous Creatures by Mahnke. This is a collection of non-fiction historical looks at lore regarding monstrous creatures. I heard about this series from Andreea at Infinite Text. I'm going to link her channel as well as the entire video she did devoted to lore, this series by Mahnke below. So Mahnke is somebody who does a podcast called Lore, and this is just kind of a book version of some of those podcast episodes. So if you like podcasts, you can go listen to the podcast or you can listen to the audiobook, but I don't like listening to stories. I like reading them. I just can't concentrate as well on audio things. So I was so happy when Andreea talked about this because it just really, really appealed to me in this whole October feel. So this is a collection of really kind of historical documents and research about the way that different people believe in certain lore, looking at things like gremlins or vampires or creepy dolls. That section was actually really creepy. Most of the sections in this are interesting rather than creepy for me, but the creepy doll one was creepy. So I really, really am impressed with the way that Mahnke kind of tackles each of these topics. It's very digestible, these little, I mean, really they're podcasts developed into this book, so they're very digestible little pieces, taking a look at different aspects of lore, and I love that this is very much from a historian type of perspective. So everything that we're getting here isn't learning necessarily about the lore itself, but about historical incidents where people believed in the lore. And so he takes a look at court documents or news reportings or, just historical evidence, records of what people have done. And it's so fascinating. Things like incidences where people in a village have dug up bodies and driven stakes through the hearts of the corpses because they're worried that, those people are coming back as vampires and all sorts of different things. And it's just really so fascinating. So if you like nonfiction, if you like folklore, if you like mythology, if you like any of that or creepy things, this is such a great collection. Definitely check out Andrea's entire review of the series of lore because I think she'll really convince you to pick it up. But I loved this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm definitely going to go ahead and read the other 2 books that are in this series, but maybe I'll save like one for each October over the next couple of years because it was just so much fun. And the last book that I finished this week was Lou by Jason Reynolds. This is the 4th book in the Track series, which is a middle grade series looking at a bunch of middle school kids who are part of a community track team. This was so sweet. I have loved every book in this series and I was so happy to finally finish it. I have had this book on hold but paused since I think March, and I finally just made time for it because I really wanted to read it. This story follows Lou, who is a kid on the track team who's got a lot of confidence, he's got a lot of bling, he's got just so much style, but he's also using a lot of that as armor, as something to kind of cope with some of the bullying that he's experienced in the past because he's albino, and he deals with a lot of things like having to slather on the sunscreen and having to deal with some eye issues because often albinism is associated with some vision impairment. So there's just a lot in here that was really interesting, but the heart of this story really is about how to deal with fear, how to deal with bullying, how to deal with finding confidence in yourself, as well as how to deal with forgiveness, how to deal with also apologizing when you've done wrong. This story has a lot of heart to it. I really, really loved it. I loved the whole series, so if you want more about it, I'll have that series review at the end of the week, but I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, and I highly recommend the entire series, but in order. Okay, so that is everything that I've read for this week. If you've read any of the books that I talked about, or if you have any thoughts, any comments, anything like that, just go ahead and leave it below. I'd love to hear from you.